There's a new bookstore on the block making headlines and history. It is You and Me Books here in Chinatown. Lucy, congratulations on the bookstore.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming here.
Of course. Do you want to talk about how many firsts you are checking off by opening up You and Me Books?
It's shocking, but first Asian American female-owned bookstore in New York City. This is a space where we really represent immigrant stories, really represent stories of color, and we want everyone to come in here and find a bit of piece of home on the shelves.
Why was this important to you?
I think it was, I'm a big avid reader. I read so much, and I love reaching out of stories beyond the perspective that I have. And I think when I went into a lot of bookstores and did a lot of research into books, I had to do a couple extra steps to search for those stories that represented people like me, that represented people like my mother. So I wanted someone to come in and look at the entire shelves here and be like, okay, all of these represent a little bit of me. And that diversity is something that I really value in the store.
Let's also talk about what else you have going on over here.
Yes.
So yes, this is a bookstore, but it's also
a community space. So that was on the forefront of what I wanted to create. So this bar wasn't here before. I had this bar built because it's kind of a centerpiece to bring everyone together. Like when I'm in my friend's living room, there's always everyone's always in the kitchen. Yeah. And this is kind of my kitchen.
I was totally getting that vibe. I love it.
And so that's what I wanted to kind of create here. And I'm expanding to coffee and tea, beer and wine, because that's the facilitators of my conversation. I think it's something different when you take the time and be present and actually share a cup or a beverage with someone else.
And can you tell me about the name? How did you come up with the name?
Well, as a nerdy pun person myself, You and Me Books is a great pun. It's my last name. But also it's, sharing stories between you and me. It's sharing stories between the differences that we have and the similarities that we have. And the initials YM are also my mother's initials.
It's so cliche, but thinking about chapter 1 of your story, right? So where does that begin?
There was, the prologue of me wanting to always do this. I was a chemical engineer.
This is what we got to talk about. Chemical engineer by trade.
Yes.
You also have another job on top of opening up this bookstore.
I do.
You start working at 6 a.m.?
I do.
And then she comes, opens up the store at 11 a.m.?
At 11,
And then when you close the store, then you go back.
Yeah.
And then you do your other job until
midnight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is dedication.
It's a labor of love, and I think that this is where I always found comfort. And the stories that I read, and this, where I can just travel essentially in every story that I read, that's where I found so much of my personal home. So that's always been a dream of mine to kind of extend, and chapter 1 really started of January 2021. I started putting together the business plan. I think the pandemic made us all realize how short life is, how little time maybe we have on this earth. So this was something that was a priority for me to feel not only at home in what I was doing, but create a home for everyone else.